Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I'm really low in here. I'm sorry I have been missing. I have been sick and I injured my back. So, but there's been so much going on that I really wanted to just go live and talk about this, especially Jeffrey Epstein getting arrested on Saturday, which is in really big news. And for those of us that follow Q, we have been waiting for this, right? So, hello. So, I'm just gonna start to get into it. Yes, I know it's July and I'm wearing a hat, but my hair is incredibly dirty, like abominably, and there's no time to shower. There's just so much information coming in at all times. There's no time for anything, especially not being sick and injuring oneself. So, hello everyone, glad to see you. So Jeffrey Epstein was arrested on Saturday by the FBI NYPD Crimes Against Children Task Force, and he's being held in federal lockup in Manhattan. His new indictment, which should be unsealed possibly tomorrow, will reportedly allege that he sexually exploited dozens of underage girls. So, also the case is being handled by the Public Corruption Unit of the Southern District of New York. The Southern District of New York has come up a bunch with Q stuff. One is that is where Wiener's laptop was being held, right? It was the district of, or I believe a lot of the recent suicides of law enforcement has recently happened. So, you know, not the hottest of places. Yeah, MSM is trying to connect Trump to Epstein. We'll get into that for sure. So it's being handled by the Public Corruption Unit of the Southern District of New York with the assistance from the district's human trafficking officials and the FBI. The attorney representing two of the victims was quoted as saying, "We hope that prosecutors will not stop with Mr. Epstein because there were many other people who participated with him and made the sex trafficking possible." So he had been arrested. Previously. I think we'll probably go into that first. And got quite a sweetheart deal. So I've put a bunch of links in the description below, so if you want to kind of follow along and go with me. This will be the first link. It's a YouTube video, and it was from William Barr's confirmation hearing, I think, and it's Senator Ben Sasse. I think he's a senator from Nebraska, and he was kind of quoting a report from the Miami Herald, I think was where most of this stuff was coming from, and he was talking about how Jeffrey Epstein had assembled a cult-like network of underage girls with some of the victims performing as recruiters to coerce the other girls, underage girls, into having sex with him. It was all kind of done under the guise of them performing massages for him or whatever. He was also suspected of trafficking other girls from overseas for sex parties at his residences in Manhattan, New Mexico, and the Caribbean. The Caribbean is where he owns an island called Little St. James, or Pedo Island, as it's more commonly known now. It's very strange. You can actually go online and find pictures of this island, of like strange temples and monuments and altar-looking things. In 2007, despite ample evidence and multiple witnesses corroborating the girls' stories, federal prosecutors and Epstein's lawyers quietly put together a remarkable deal for Epstein. He agreed to plead guilty to 2 felony prostitution charges in state court, and in exchange, he and his accomplices received immunity from the sex trafficking charges that could have sent him to prison for the rest of his life. He served 13 months in the private wing of a Palm Beach County stockade, and I believe he was, in fact, I know he was granted, what's it called when they let you leave to go to work? So he had set up an office in Palm Beach oh yeah, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office allowed Epstein release privileges, which enabled him to leave the jail 6 days a week for 12 hours a day to go to a comfortable office that Epstein had set up in West Palm Beach. This was granted despite explicit sheriff's department rules stating that sex offenders don't qualify for work release. So not only was he getting this sweetheart deal, after there was copious amounts of evidence that he was abusing multiple children, then he gets a very cushy sentence and, you know, doesn't really have to stay in jail. This is what we are talking about when we say there are two sets of rules, and that these elite people have way too much ability to get around, you know, the laws. I'm gonna read some of these comments here really quick before I go into the next stuff. Sounds like Nexium pyramid like. Yeah, actually Nexium is what I had been researching this past week. That was gonna be my next video, but then all of a sudden this Epstein stuff broke and I was like, well, shoot, now we've gotta, I mean, not shoot, it's great, it's awesome, but there's so many different things that are unraveling right now, which is wonderful, but it's really hard to chase all of the information. So I just figured today we would just focus on Epstein, and then we'll get into Nexium, I think, in the next video, because these are two stories that are really imperative that we keep an eye on, because I think it's going to lead to huge arrests. So his alleged co-conspirators who helped schedule his sex sessions were never prosecuted. The deal, which was called a non-prosecution agreement, was sealed so that no one, not even his victims, could know the full scope of Epstein's crimes and who else was involved. But even more unusual, this is a quote, I don't even remember where I quoted this from. It'll be one of the links below. But okay, so even more unusual, the deal included wording that granted immunity to, quote, any potential co-conspirators who were also involved in Epstein's crimes. These accomplices or participants were not identified in the agreement, leaving it open to interpretation whether it possibly referred to other influential people who were having sex with underage girls at Epstein's various homes or on his plane. Think about how crazy that is for a second. Not only did they give him an immunity deal, but literally anyone undisclosed, like we're not even going to bother putting anyone's specific name down here. Just really anyone that might have done any of this stuff is just now immune to being prosecuted. It's crazy. When they talk about his plane, they're talking about the Lolita Express, which is what it's commonly called. And below, I have linked a PDF of his flight logs, which have a bunch of very interesting people on them. So now this is where, you know, we get into, obviously we want to state that just because somebody rode on an airplane with somebody or traveled with them or whatever does not guarantee that they are guilty of whatever this person is guilty of, obviously. So being on an airplane log doesn't prove anything, but the point here is that we can prove that this person and his associates who might have done bad things with him were granted immunity without a proper investigation and without a proper, you know, trial. So, you know, we definitely, I think, you know, obviously it is important that he has now been arrested and that we are getting a better look into this stuff. But the flight logs include Bill Clinton, a ton. Naomi Campbell was on there a bunch, which I thought was weird. Kevin Spacey, Alan Dershowitz. Bill Clinton had gone specifically to his Little St. John Island, Epstein Island, Pedo Island, a bunch. So that doesn't look great for him. But again, this is why we need investigations into these things to find out what was happening on those, on the plane, on the island, in his homes, at these sex parties, etc. Spacey is shady as F. That's true. Oh, there was also, I don't have it in my notes yet, but I saw it last night. Spacey also was being questioned, right, in New York by the, who was it? Was it Scotland Yard Police or something for crimes or some kind of allegations in the UK or whatever. I thought it was interesting that that would break on the same day that Epstein was arrested. So yeah, obviously the mainstream media is trying to link Trump to Epstein. Trump is in the flight logs, but never to Epstein Island. I believe what happened was he hitched a ride with Epstein's son from Daytona Beach back to New York City one time. And he is in Epstein's little black book, you know, his book of contacts, and he's got his private phone number and stuff like that. But that isn't so weird when you consider who Donald Trump was, how connected he was, and that he was an important person. If you were an important person, you probably would want to have his contact. Bradley Edwards, this is also a link that I put down below. He is the attorney who's represented many of the victims, of Epstein's victims. So in the video, there was a reporter that was asking him about the possibility of Trump's involvement in any of this because of his, quote, past relationships with Epstein. They make it sound like these guys were BFFs. And the attorney said, quote, "The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he's the only person who in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know," and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, and had good information that checked out and helped us. So this was an excerpt from an article on the Washington Post. It said that although Trump and Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane and visited his homes, neither president has been accused of taking part in the sexual misdeeds. But lawyers for Epstein's victims say that Trump nonetheless may have useful information. Trump banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach because, quote, Epstein sexually assaulted an underage girl at the club. That was a quote from Bradley Edwards, the same attorney I just quoted above, who represents at least 3 of the young women in the Epstein case. So from what I had heard, it was actually a daughter of somebody that worked at Mar-a-Lago, and like she was 14 years old or something like that. And when Trump heard about it, he banned him for life from Mar-a-Lago. Don't put all of your eggs, I don't think anybody's putting any eggs. Like I said, whatever it is, the point of all of this is to start investigations, true and proper investigations. I don't believe that Trump was involved just by what I've seen. It doesn't make sense for how much he is going after human traffickers, how much he's doing to, you know, he signed an EO to make their funds available to be taken away from them if you're accused of human trafficking or one of these things. It seems like everything he's doing is setting up to take these people down. But you know what? If there are allegations against him, then investigate him. That should just be the way that it is with everything. Bill Clinton did travel to Epstein's private island over 25 times. Oh, and it's also probably worth mentioning, I think I've got this linked below too, that Epstein claimed to have been one of the founders of the Clinton Foundation, and he was also a heavy donor. So it's very interesting how these friends of the Clintons, you know, must be nice. It must be nice. You definitely don't want to be on their hit list. And then also we've got a bunch of, I think I actually just put the qmap.pub link below, but if you do a search for Epstein in there, it's a great resource. If you do a search for Epstein, you'll come up with a lot of different things that talk about this. And Rachel Chandler is also a name that has come up a bunch when in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. And she actually had a picture once on her Instagram that is now all over 8chan and whatever else from the security camera at Epstein Island. And there's just really very strange and like scary stuff in it. There's one picture that looks like a bunch of naked people sitting around tables and sitting on buckets. It looks really not pleasant and very strange. So yeah, Prince Andrew, man, Prince Andrew, he was somebody that I was also digging on when I was going to do a whole thing on, what's his face? What was the guy? Jimmy Savile, who was just an incredible monster. Again, here is a man that was, when he was alive, extremely well connected, not just with celebrities and politicians, but royalty. Some of his, best friends were royalty. And he had over 500 victims or something that came out after his death, including disabled and elderly people, and just what a monster. He was, he sat on the board for hospitals to like raise money for them, but he was getting, doing these things to get access to these vulnerable people. In fact, one of the hospitals even gave him an apartment, his own apartment, and like access to the hospital, to these people's rooms whenever he wanted. And there's actually a documentary. Well, if I go into that, I'll do a whole different video on that. But there was a really interesting documentary where his nephew was, as a teenager, was, picked up at a train station. He and his friends like took off and went to London. They were picked up at a train station by some random men, and this was back in the, I don't know, 60s. And this was back before people really ever talked about child predators and things like that. You just didn't think about that sort of thing. And they ended up going back to this apartment with these men and staying there for months. I don't really get the whole story there, but he said there were children always coming and going, being picked up and dropped off out of this apartment. And he didn't really, he was too dense to really understand what was going on. But that while he was staying there, suddenly his uncle, Jimmy Savile, showed up. And he thought that he was being busted. He thought his family busted him, found out where he was, and they sent his uncle to get him. Little did he know, he realized much later when he understood, who and what his uncle was, that it was actually he who was busting his uncle. But yeah, just very sick stuff. The British Captain Kangaroo trafficking kids to the royals. Ugh. Anyone who called him out on the BBC was banned, like Johnny Rotten. Yeah, in fact, the BBC was doing their own investigation into him, apparently. And I think they had their own, they even had information that the police didn't have, but then they just cut it off. And this was while he was alive. This was years and years before he died. And I think while he was still working for, while he was still working for the BBC, and they just did nothing about it. And like I said, there was over like 500 victims. It's just crazy. Saw a picture of Patrick Stewart yesterday in an article about his dogs or something, but he had a creepy shirt on that said pizza smile. Ugh. I don't know who Patrick Stewart is. I don't think I know who that is. Hey guys, hello. So yeah, I think that this Jeffrey Epstein thing is a very important thing to keep our eyes on right now. He is very well connected. He is, I'm not even entirely sure how he became a billionaire. He's supposedly, a hedge fund, something or other, hedge fund manager or something like that. Couple things. One, if he was running human trafficking for, massive elite people, there would be a lot of money in that. But also, there's something to be said about honeypots, and if there were cameras and things, which I think we're kind of led to believe that some of this stuff would be used as blackmail material against these very powerful people, and you could gain a lot of leverage that way. Patrick Stewart is Captain Picard, from Star Trek. Interesting. Seems a current form of Pennywise. Yes, he's disgusting. Comey's daughter, the prosecutor. Yes, I saw that. Comey's daughter, FBI, ex-FBI, James Comey's daughter is one of the prosecutors. And that's kind of worrisome, although I really believe that at this point, the reason that we're seeing this, he served his time. This could have been, these poor victims had been fighting and had been silenced, and this could have just gone away, but it didn't. It's coming back now, and I think that there's a reason for that. I think that it's no coincidence that these, not only this very high profile case, but we're also seeing the NXIVM people being prosecuted and being found guilty, and that is massive. But if you are paying attention to these, you got to kind of put it together yourself. You've got to follow a bunch of people that are putting this together on Twitter, and you got to go to 8chan, and you got to follow independent journalists that are covering this stuff and compiling it in a way that is showing you the big picture all together. Because if you're just seeing little pieces here and there, it just seems like an isolated case in, whatever, Virginia. But there are a lot of people going down for human trafficking, sexual abuse of children, trafficking of children. And so while none of them really seem connected at this point, at least one connection that we can say they all have is that they are all being prosecuted finally. So, or at least investigated. So there's something to that. And I think there is a reason that when Trump, got into office, he basically stated he was making it his mission to take down human trafficking. I wonder if he has dirt on Trump. I think he didn't get the chance to. Well, one of the things that's important to point out about Trump is that he doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs, which of course those things don't necessarily make you do terrible things, but it also, kind of makes you a little less corruptible. I think I retweeted somebody yesterday that said something like, Trump is the sober guy standing in the corner while everybody's like drunkenly spilling their guts to them. He has been in this scene of these wealthy and important people almost his entire life, and he probably knows a lot about a lot of nefarious things that have happened, and maybe was able to somehow fly under the radar. It seems to me like we just had a very expensive 2-year-long investigation into him, and they were trying very hard to find a reason to take him down and couldn't do that. In fact, I think one of the things I linked below, if I can find it here, that's not it. I think it was a Neon Revolt. Shoot, I collapsed it. Was it Neon Revolt? Shoot, it was something about how they were specifically trying to link him to Epstein in the dossier, but couldn't do it. They couldn't make it seem like there was anything more than just, that they were associated by being around each other, probably friendly, had each other's phone numbers, or probably at the same social events or whatever. Now I gotta scroll up. Do you think because New York, somehow Wiener laptop and Clintons will get pulled in? I think Clintons are going to get pulled in no matter what. I think the laptop is going to be connected. I think that the laptop is going to be important somewhere. Again, the laptop was being sat on by Eric Schneiderman, who was the AG of New York and Attorney General of New York, and he left his job I believe about a year ago, or June I think of last year, for sexual misconduct or whatever. He had all these weird stories come out about him, but because since he was in office and sitting on this laptop, not allowing it to be used for evidence in anything, once he was gone, I remember there being a lot of excitement because it was like, oh man, now this laptop that is potentially a treasure trove of finding out these dirty, disgusting things that some of these people are having. Keep in mind, there was an actual file on that laptop called insurance file. And I'm unclear on whether it was Huma Abedin's laptop or Anthony Weiner's laptop. Again, remember, they're married, but either way, it was, I believe, incriminating, documents, photos, and even videos of some of these disgusting things. And so I even heard that it might be linked to the Nexium case too. So there are a lot of different ways that the Weiner laptop could come into play potentially. And that makes me really excited, because while I would never want to see anything that was on there, I want to know what was on there. And I want to know, because if it is what I heard it was, then people need to go to jail at least. I've got a few friends who aren't awake yet to start asking questions. Oh, well, that's really great. That is a wonderful start. That's where we all start, right? I think we all have that one like moment of reality vertigo where we're just like, wait, what? And now I feel like they're coming every day. They're just mind-blowing things happening literally every day. It's so funny. I've got a few friends that we just like literally are texting each other every day with just mind-blowing information coming in. But again, none of this, some of that stuff isn't like, provable or whatever yet. So it's not stuff, otherwise I'd be sitting here going live every single day being like, look what I found, you guys. But I try to at least present stuff that is, I don't know, somewhat provable, That's how we got it. That's how we got to wake people up, We could go there. We could probably get them interested with some of the stuff that's like really out there, but we risk losing them completely if we can't back up what we talk about. It's hard for me to read some of these because I'm missing some of it. So when I'm not sure exactly who you're talking about in all of these, he's buddies with the Clintons, but they're using pics of him with Trump, like they're buds. Oh, Epstein. Yeah, I mean, just because you take a picture with somebody does not a conspiracy make. I've got pictures with plenty of knuckleheads throughout my life, and vice versa. Anybody that's taken a picture of me surely would not be guilty of anything that I've done. But yeah, I mean, taking a picture with someone, being social with someone, or even having somebody's phone number is one thing. Going on vacations with somebody on a fairly regular basis, traveling, the world with them, etc., is a little different, I think. I think that, it would be pretty hard not to, and keep in mind, he was already a registered sex offender from what had gone on in whatever it was, 2007. These people knew this about him. And even though he got some sweetheart deal, it doesn't mean that information wasn't, already out there. And if any of my friends had all of that being said about them and then they went to jail for it and I knew how connected they were and they weren't getting in trouble, it wouldn't tell me that just because they didn't get into trouble, they didn't do it. That's the debates. That was another thing, man. The debates were hysterical / so sad / really gross. The owl on top signals a demon. I forgot the name. Isn't that Moloch? And I think, are you talking about the owl on Epstein Island, like that big statue that looks like the statue that's at the Bohemian Grove? Because there is one of those at Epstein, or at least there was. I know there was actually one of the Q drops was one of the first ones. I've got it up right here. Why is Epstein spending $29 million to bury the tunnels underneath his temple on Epstein Island? Getting rid of evidence, maybe? Operation Broken Heart is a very good sign that Trump is a stand-up guy. I agree. We shall see. There was an assassination attempt on July 4th that got thwarted. Lots of high-level deep state threats, and one confirmed plot was uncovered. I heard about that too. If Trump was I lost it. I lost it. If Trump was dirty that way, Mueller wouldn't have shouted it from the roof, or wouldn't have shouted it from the rooftops. Oh yeah, there was something else about Mueller too. Well, he was also involved in the, I don't want to say it because I don't know for sure. I forgot. There was some kind of connection there. I should have put it in my notes, but I didn't. I always forget that my brain turns into mush as soon as I go live. But plus, it's just like, I've been in bed for like the last 5 days. Actually, the earthquake, ever since the first earthquake in California, I'm not in California, but I'm close, and I've been feeling super nauseous. And then my back went out, and then a bunch of bees died, and I'm like, what is going on in California? I grew up in California, so I'm used to earthquakes, and, I mean, used to them, like, the littler ones. There's a huge difference between like medium-sized earthquakes and large earthquakes. Like I was in medium to small earthquakes my entire life, and it was like, oh, this is fun, we can get out of school. And then I was in a big earthquake, and it really messed me up. I was in the Northridge quake in '94, and literally had instant anxiety and PTSD. And the house that I grew up, like born and raised in, oh, I wasn't born in it. I mean, come on, guys. But literally the house I was in my entire life, the night of that earthquake, it happened at 4 a.m. My family left the house that night. I literally never stepped foot back in that house again. I stayed with friends for a couple of weeks, and literally a few weeks after the earthquake, my family had moved out of state because my anxiety was so awful. And it's part of why I became a hypnotherapist myself, because I had hypnotherapy to get rid of my phobia of earthquakes, and it was miraculous. It was life-changing. I was able to move back to California and live there for like 12 more years, and without having a problem with them. So I was like, wow, if this works so incredibly for me, I want to help other people too. I have missed Kate. After 15 years, why do you think they're getting Epstein now? Honestly, I think it has a lot to do with the clearing out of the DOJ, the FBI, the blah, 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 all of these different, this is exactly like what I was talking about. Was it my Q video? Where if you had to take down these high profile people, what would happen if the people that are tasked with doing that are compromised or possibly, either a part of it or are being blackmailed or whatever? It's literally exactly what we saw last time. We saw him get off with, almost nothing. I mean, it was ridiculous. He served 18 months for unspeakable things. And so while it's been painstaking to wait, if you are paying attention, you get a little bit more of a peace of mind, I think, by watching these things come into place that need to come into place. You cannot prosecute somebody if you've got dirty judges, if you've got dirty cops, if you've got, that are supposed to be doing the investigating, that lose evidence or mess something up over here so that it can no longer be used or whatever. So, Michigan. Oh, hello. I didn't know you were in Michigan. Is the sealed indictment avalanche starting? That is a good question. I haven't actually checked the updated number. Does anybody know the number? We're in a new month now. We usually get an update around like the 2nd or 3rd of that updated number, but the last I saw was over 100,000 for at least the last couple months. So, and one of these sealed indictments, we know at least one of them is getting unsealed tomorrow possibly, and it's got Jeffrey Epstein's name on it. So, end of September, mid-October. Yeah, I had heard rumors that September was kind of like a hard deadline for a lot of these disclosure things and a lot of the things that Q has been talking about to come to fruition, so we'll see. But again, we never want to, just like the 4th of July, I know a lot of people got their hearts broken, I think, on 4th of July, or, maybe we're a little bit let down because they were expecting Trump to say something massive during his speech or to give some kind of disclosure, like aliens to land on the, Lincoln Memorial or whatever. That's why you never want to get your hopes up. But also keep in mind that as much as we're anxious for the good stuff to happen, think about the these deep state a-holes that are laying in bed at night with their cocktail rattling and nervous, and that just makes it fine for me. The stuff I write is weird. You don't have to read it out loud. I will keep that in mind. Interesting. So now I'm trying to like not read your thing out loud, but it's kind of hard for me. I can't think and do other things at the same time. Oh, 106,000. Those are the sealed cases, I'm guessing. What's with China Lake? So China Lake was is the naval base that is in the area of California where it was literally the epicenter of the earthquake. And it was interesting because I was watching that night that her name is like Dr. Lucy something. She's the woman that always comes on and talks about earthquakes after they happen, and she's the expert. And they were asking her because the initial information that was coming in on this earthquake was that the epicenter was above ground. And she was like, okay, well, obviously that's impossible. So that just means that data is incorrect and we'll have to go back. And I saw some different reports about the depth of of the epicenter, or the depth of this quake. I saw 1 mile, I saw 10 miles, I saw above ground. So who knows? But this is an actual naval base, that was where the epicenter was. It wasn't adjacent. It wasn't like kind of in the vicinity. It was like literally there. So that is interesting. I saw a bunch of very weird things on 8chan about this particular naval base and weird things going on there, but I haven't like looked into any of that yet, so I don't want to say it because I mean, it was crazy. I think it's all possible, but I haven't looked into it yet. But fascinating. How did I like the parade? I got very emotional, not gonna lie. But I was also in pain. I hurt my back. That was like the moment. I had been like anticipating this, right? I'm like getting my house ready. I'm like, I gotta have my house clean. I gotta be prepared. I'm gonna be comfortable. I'm gonna have my lemonade next to me. I was like getting ready. And I pinched a nerve in my back like 10 minutes before, and I was literally stuck face down on my bed. And it was really pathetic, but I had it on luckily, and I was kind of able to watch, but I was like just really sad that I couldn't really be totally present for the parade and the speech, although the speech was beautiful. I thought it was very funny how they were accusing him of, this was going to be all about Trump, was going to make it all about Trump, but really it wasn't about him at all. It was really, I thought, a beautiful honor to our military, to our country. I mean, really, if anything, it was our mainstream media that was making it about Trump instead of, these other things, instead of our country. I saw a really cute thing that was John Voight was there with paper towels because, all of these military hero people were sitting in the, area for VIPs or honored guests or whatever. And so I think he was there wiping the rain off of the seats, which I think is really cute. July will be massive. Oh, see, again, it's you. I'm sorry, I'm reading your stuff out loud. He said it. Oh, yeah, that was another thing. Trump said in 2 weeks, you'll know why Pence was called back from New Hampshire. Everyone says Pence is dirty. Yeah, I don't know what to think about Pence. All I know is that Q doesn't bring him up at all, and I think that is interesting to say the least. But yeah, Pence was getting ready to board a flight last week to New Hampshire, and suddenly we were getting reports that he hadn't left yet. He was still, the airplane was still grounded, but that he was being called back, and there was some kind of emergency situation, but it wasn't anything to worry about, but they would be telling us in a couple weeks what it was, which I thought was a very strange response to that. Like, either it's private or, it's a security issue or whatever that, isn't for everyone to know, or it just seemed like a very weird response. I just wanted tanks in the parade. Yeah, those tanks were really cool. The airplanes going over, all of the different aircrafts and stuff like that, and hearing them and hearing the powerful sound of them going over was actually, along with the beautiful music they were playing, was very, it made me feel very patriotic, I will say, and kind of emotional. Oh, it keeps jumping. They can flag them. How do they stop people from fleeing? Can they put stops on passports? Well, they can. I think that it's a bigger, I mean, I'm kind of under the impression, like, if we're talking about if these people are, if the good guys are really in control, then they either have some kind of monitoring device on these people. Like, if these people are allowed to be going free, there's some kind of insurance, I think, that they're not going to be going anywhere. I don't know exactly how they do that, but I do trust that somehow they are making sure that these people don't just escape and go underground and, you know, get lost like Osama bin Laden somehow in a hole in the ground. I bet there will be Assange news soon as well. I hope so. Wasn't it just his birthday? Happy birthday to you. Yeah, I always look forward to hearing about Assange news. We worry about him for sure. Oh yeah, there was a military flight tag on radar, Coast Guard, and the flight tag was Endgame 20. Or wasn't it Endgame 2020? You might be right. It might have been Endgame 20, but that's interesting. There is a lot of, I mean, that stuff is above my pay grade and I don't really get it, but there are a lot of people that are plane friends that that know about these things and travel the flights, and a lot of these flights recently have very interesting names and you know, could be signals for cool stuff, and that's a fun thing to watch, to pay attention to if you're interested in that kind of thing. There are actual sub threads on the 8chan Q research dealy that is like just for that. They're saying more earthquakes are coming, but nobody knows how to predict earthquakes, so that's how we know they're fake. I think they're trying to trigger a bigger one. Well, that's kind of what I just remember. They've always said that after earthquakes. They always say, I just remember being young and always kind of pissed that they would say things like that. Like, you know, when something scary like that happens and you turn on the news, you almost want them to just kind of like reassure you and make you feel better or whatever. And it would kind of drive me nuts that every time there would be an earthquake, they'd be like, well, you know, we can't really tell you for sure that this isn't the precursor to the big one. It was just like, that's not soothing. So every time there's, just like what happened the other day, there was the, what was it, a 6 point something, and then suddenly a couple days later there was the 7.1. So that can actually happen. An earthquake can be a precursor to a larger one, but they do tend to kind of fizzle. I mean, you never know what like a real quake is until the quakes stop happening. But I do think there might be something to, I do think it's very interesting that this naval base, I do wonder if this was like something man-made. So the name of the Navy base is China Lake Naval Base or something like that. China Lake something. Oops, somebody else. This thing jumps around a lot. I have no idea where I am. Earthquakes are probably artificially generated, but we are in the grand solar minimum, which is always accompanied by a ton of quakes, floods, and volcanoes. That's something I want to look more into, is all this solar stuff that people are talking about, because I think that's very interesting. I know nothing about it. The emergency was about a Russian submarine off Alaskan coast. Yes, then you've got all this submarine stuff going on and torpedo stuff going on in the ocean, and that's crazy too. I haven't been able to look into that. There was a shooting at the base he was flying to. I did hear about that, yes. But was that what they were talking about when they said, we'll tell you in 2 weeks? Because that was already information that had been in the news, right? So why wouldn't they just say, you know, we kept him grounded because there was a shooting there? There was a recent solar eclipse. There was? I missed it. Oh, and then we've got Federal Reserve stuff. Again, that is another entire video that I want to do. Yeah, that sub stuff is not anything that I know anything about. Oh, thank you. Healing thoughts for my back. It really isn't anything massive. It just, this happens to me. It's like hereditary. It happens to my mom and my sister all the time too. We just like pinch nerves. And I could actually feel it coming for a couple days. It's weird. You can kind of feel like that it's going to go out. And the original onset, I was actually sleeping and just like put my arms under my pillow and just this snap happened and it's so painful. Actually, if I wasn't totally lazy, I would just go see an acupuncturist, because the last time I had this, I went to an acupuncturist and I didn't believe her when she was like, oh, I can fix that. And I was like, there's no way. I couldn't move. And she fixed it like instantly. It was magic. So I plan on going to an acupuncturist sometime this week. Earthquake in Vancouver? I don't know. Uh-oh, there's an evil person in here? Are they talking about my dirty hair? Look up Suspicious Observers YouTube page. Talks about the sun, weather, and earthquakes. Thank you, I will do that. That's awesome. Oh, thank you for blocking the evil person. Who do you think will win the Democratic bid for 2020? From what I'm seeing, I think it's going to come down to between Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, just based on, you know, what I saw in the debates and how the media is kind of poisoning them. I kind of think Biden is like toast. Kamala Harris going after Joe Biden was like super uncomfortable during the debate. And again, I have to go back to this, you know, this, of course, I am a woman. I understand that women are totally as capable as men. We're different and that's cool, whatever. I could definitely see a female president in the United States. In fact, there are a few that I can think of that I would like to see as president of the United States, none of them being on the Democratic ticket. But there, you know, when she was talking about being a child and started to cry, I'm standing there going, are you gonna cry? You're gonna cry? Like, this is not what we need in a president. I don't feel safe if my president is crying, thinking about their childhood. Or, I mean, obviously there are reasons, human reasons that people cry and whatever, but it just, you know, I just didn't think that that was putting your best foot forward. You don't feel solid to me. You don't feel like you've got it all together. And the way she was attacking Joe Biden to me was like, just, again, I feel like maybe because women think that like they get, you know, underestimated or whatever, that they've got to go even harder and even tougher. But it just came across as bitchy, you know? It didn't seem strong. It just seemed awkward. It was like being in the room when like if you're at your friend's house and their parents start to fight with you in the room, that's what it felt like. I hated it. You want to hear me talk about the Fed? Well, I would like to do a lot more research before I stick my foot in my mouth with that, but needless to say, I think that Federal Reserve needs to go. And I do get excited every time I hear, you know, Trump make small comments about putting an end to it or whatever, or that we can believe that that's what he means, whatever. I wonder if the quakes are being triggered because it's all about to come down and the deep state and they have enough power to cause big problems, just like the wildfires, right? Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I heard actually the other way around, that it was actually the good guys possibly doing it because there were all these earthquakes all over the place and in places that, you know, maybe these people had underground bunkers where they were hiding out or hiding, you know, weapons. Or what about that house? That was actually a few weeks ago now, but the house that was in Beverly Hills that had thousands of guns, and it was owned by the ex-mistress of the son that owns the Getty Museum, J. Paul Getty or whatever, the son of that guy. Is that what his name is? J. Paul Getty, whatever. The Getty Museum in Los Angeles, like multi-billionaire. They actually had 3 kids together, so it wasn't just his mistress. But yeah, this house that she owned got tossed with literally thousands of guns, like shotguns, rifles, handguns, and even some kind of machinery to make guns, make weapons. That was interesting. Gotta deadlift more. My hips, my knees would never stand for that. Ever. Also, I'm like I kind of get muscly if I work out a lot. That's my excuse. Epstein case is being handled by Comey's daughter. Dead giveaway. Mossad is putting blackmail pressure on Trump. I don't know. I don't know if I would say that was a dead giveaway. I think that there are reasons to question that and to be like, oh, that looks really suspicious, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it is. There are both good and bad ways to interpret that, I think. I don't have a chiropractor. I need one. Interesting. Yeah, but acupuncture, every once in a while, like really hurts. It'll like hit a nerve and it just zings. And they put them in weird places, like the top of your head. I don't love it, but I like the results. It was extremely graphic and inappropriate. I'm not sure what we're talking about there. I don't remember. Oh, I don't remember Hillary crying when she ran against Obama, but she tried pulling out every trick. Let's face it. She does not seem capable. Dawn needs to be a mod. Cool. I will find her and make her one. But I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, so I'll have to do it later. Trump's word choice is hilarious. He'll say, I don't think it jumped. She's a very talented person, honestly. I mean, he is our troll in chief. I love that about him. Oh, that was the one of the theories I saw going around, that like they were digging into this naval base where the earthquake was, and that they have these things that will tunnel in, and that's how they were getting to it. And they were doing, I think, math to see like how long it would take for these things to tunnel into there from the ocean. Like they have to go in like through the ocean or whatever, through the ocean bed. And they were linking it back to the day of the Democratic debates where Trump tweeted, what did he tweet? One word: boring. So if double meanings exist, that's actually pretty funny. But I do kind of love when he's petulant. Sorry. Makes me happy. I think there are directed energy weapons used for the quakes and fires. Yeah, those fires 100% were not normal. I talked to some firemen that were there fighting them, who saw these things personally, and they were talking about things they've never seen before, like stone countertops being completely demolished. That doesn't, I mean, think about that. Stone doesn't burn, melt, disintegrate in fire. So that seems to me more like, you know, some kind of, I don't know, directed energy weapon, perhaps? Yeah, good guys destroying deep state bases. That would make me very happy. X22 financial report. Yeah, that's a good one to watch. X22 report, right? Do you think Epstein will roll over on people and talk? I think so. What else is he gonna do? He's in big, big, big trouble, I think. And so You know, that's one thing. Like on one hand, the good guys are always at a disadvantage because they are not willing to fight as dirty as the dirty people. But the advantage that good people have over dirty people is that, what is that saying? There is no honor amongst thieves. They will all rat each other. They will eat each other's faces off before they go down. So, you know, I do think he'll talk. I think he'll roll over and talk about some big people, and I hope to see lots and lots of arrests. I mean, it's like a known thing. He was not operating alone. So there are going to be some people that are going to get brought up. That's inevitable. Not a chance they don't try to use this as a Russia hoax 2.0 and accuse Trump of pedophilia. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not worried about that because I think it'll shake itself out. If he's not guilty, then nothing to worry about, I don't think. As long as we've got good people in place, and I think that is what the last couple years have been setting us up for. 4th of July, Bibi tweeted picture of JFK plus Ben Gurion, who ordered hit on JFK, direct threat to Trump. 2 days later, Epstein arrested. I hate how this thing jumps. Sorry, I know I keep saying that. Jeb and Netanyahu both made death threats against Trump on the 4th of July. Yes, I saw the Jeb one, which means he did something naughty the night or two prior. That's why I say DW satellite went down. Yeah, Jeb tweeted, what was the tweet? He tweeted something about how many presidents have actually died on the 4th of July, which I know he's stupid, but you're not that stupid. That was a threat. And we do have to remember his precious little face when those envelopes got passed out at Papa Bush's funeral. I want a GIF of that reaction and just watch it over and over on repeat. It was really great. There is a gold mine under Paradise, California. Yes, that is true, where the fires were. Those people that owned property there knew that they were sitting on literally a gold mine. And, you know, that would make it highly desirable to get those people out of there. I like your hat. Thank you. It is hiding my dirty hair. Hank Kuhneman mentioned there was an earthquake the same day Bush died. There was something deeply prophetic, or some deep prophetic connection. Interesting. Oh yeah, HRC canceled her cybersecurity conference, which was a total joke anyway. The fact that she would be called in to speak at an event like that was just hysterical. And so she just recently canceled it. I wonder if it has anything to do with the arrest of Jeffrey Epstein and her dirty, dirty husband. And her dirty, dirty self. I keep seeing, ouch, ouch. I keep seeing people talking about nasty comments, but I'm not seeing the nasty comments, so thank you, mods. But that's kind of funny. She is not liked in the IT community. I did see some of those too. They were really funny. Who knew that community had such a sense of humor? Actually, it's really funny. One time, on my old Twitter, I was always just like shit posting and just being rude or whatever, making jokes, but never seriously. And I remember when they finally, once upon a time, Instagram was not available for Android. And then I remember the day that it was made available for Android, and I made some like snide comment about, you know, seeing people's like shitty pictures or whatever from their Android. And it, for some reason, somebody at some tech website used my tweet in an article about Android, and people were furious. I'm not kidding you. I was getting death threats. I was getting literal death threats about my joke tweet about androids. It was nuts. So yeah, it made me kind of scared of techies. But I'm sure there are some lovely ones too. Wasn't paradise full of pedos? I don't know. I heard it was full of aliens. I prefer to think that. Did we ever find out what was in those damn envelopes? Well, Q said it was their what? Their promise to counter or something like that. It was some kind of a threat. I heard that it was having something to do with their bolt holes, like the places that they would go and escape to, that the White Hats had taken control of them or something. Whatever it was, it had to be either a photograph or a very short sentence, because I'm saying these people took one look at it. They didn't have to read anything. It was like, especially Jeb, he gets the envelope turned around to him and he's just like, instantly. It was amazing. It made me so happy. So we'll see. I think we'll find out. I hope so. That's like one of life's great mysteries that I hope we get to find out before I die. Good work sending that reptilian. Oh yeah, the reptilian politician's eyes morphing. So that was on my Twitter. You have to go to my tweets and replies or responses, River, because I actually sent it in a response to somebody. But what is the guy's name? Somebody help me out. It starts with a B. It's one of the Democratic guys from the second night. And I was sitting here watching it and I'm just like, what is going on with his face? It was just like, even from far away, I could tell something was going on with his face. And then I rewatched it and I just saw his pupil was just collapsing. Every time he would like turn it and move it, and every time his eyes would close a little bit, it would just collapse into this slit. And I'm like, that is not normal. And so I took a video of it and I even made a couple slow-mo videos of it and was like sending it to people. It was, yeah, I can't explain it. So that's on my Twitter if you want to go check it out. I should probably like pin it or something and make it more accessible. Hickenlooper. Yeah, that sounds right. That was the guy. It was not normal. It wasn't even just the eye thing. It was like the facial expressions he was making. It was just like, just seemed very lizardly. Can I send you a Fox News link from the other night where John Yu's eyes shift? Yes, please do. My email address is, what's my email address? Hang tight. My internet's being wonky. Wonkadoo. I think it's the Kate Awakening. I think it's just the Kate Awakening at Gmail. It wasn't the pupils collapsing though. It was like classic demon white eyes. That's gross. Yes, please send that to me. Do these reptilians know they are reptilian? I have no idea. I have read or I have heard through the reptilian grapevine that you can either be like born that way or that you can actually somehow morph into one. I don't know. It was not sexy. Hickenlooper. Like you have a chance with a name like that. Well, same with Booty Grease or whatever his name is. That guy's toast. I don't think he's going to make it. So yeah, I would say when it comes to Democrats, it's probably going to be somewhere between Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, maybe Joe Biden. Eric Swalwell looked just like a total nine ball. I mean, he is a total nine ball, but like he couldn't even keep up with these numbnuts. So, and just watching any of these people, whether you like Trump or not, you have to kind of get that picturing any one of these 472 people that they had up on those stage those two nights, thinking about any one of them up on stage against Donald Trump is going to be just funny / sad. What if we had a they live scenario where transmission breaks in the spell and we just start seeing aliens everywhere? It could happen. I see a lot of weird stuff lately, just like out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, what is going on? But maybe I'm just going crazy. I actually haven't seen that much crazy stuff in my life, but it's my favorite thing. Actually, this mom group that I'm in on Facebook the other night had a really awesome like, what's the scariest thing that ever happened to you thread, which seemed like it was going to be totally tame. And some of these stories that I was reading were like blowing my mind. Some of them had pictures and videos that went along with them, and it was so crazy. And it was, I don't know, like 500 comments. Yeah, it was the best thing ever. I live for those things. I used to do that on like Reddit, go on the Reddit, like, you know, scary stories or whatever, and just not sleep. Anywho, I think that's all I have. Like I said, I'm gonna be working on this Nexium video for the next few days or whatever. Maybe something will break with that, who knows, in the meantime. But also just keep an eye on this Jeffrey Epstein thing. Make sure that you're signed up to be notified when I go live, because I always forget to announce it. I remembered like 10 minutes before on this on my Twitter and my Instagram. But just in case, my Twitter and my Instagram are Kate_awakening, at Kate_awakening. The painting, oh, I've got a new painting. It came. Should I show it to you now? I'll show it to you next time. It's here. I've got to paint the frame, and then I've got to figure out how to stretch a canvas into the frame, but then it's going to go up and replace this guy, and you guys are going to love it. It's super cool. But thank you guys, and yeah, I'll check in with you guys soon. Yeah. Now I got to figure out how to stop this thing.